Max Holloway has been confirmed to be Dustin Poirier's retirement fight and their third fight against each other on July 19th in Louisiana. I have many thoughts about this, not many of which are very good. As you can see by the number next to Poirier's name, this is the third time they fought, and you must be asking yourself, well, what's the record? And it must be 1-1 if they're doing a trilogy. No. Poirier has already beat Max Holloway twice. So I just don't see the purpose in creating this fight if we've already seen Poirier beat Holloway twice. I see that they're trying to give maybe Poirier like a layup, like so he can go out on a win or something like that because he's won twice already. But Holloway has gotten much better. Holloway has put out the best performance against Ilia Topuria. Holloway just knocked out Justin Gaethje at UFC 300. I say just as if it was recently, but it was a year ago. Holloway's gotten much better. He's constantly evolving. And Poirier's old now. You know, he's like 36. He's retiring. You know, it's going to be his last fight. I think Holloway wins this. You know, he's much faster. He's from a lower weight class, and he's stepping up into lightweight. You know, as Lucas Tracy would say, he's got that Letterman skill. You know, I think there's better matchups for this fight. You know, there are much better matchups for this fight. Dustin Poirier himself said he wanted to retire against Justin Gaethje or Ilia Topuria, and those are good fights. I mean, he's 1-1 against Justin Gaethje, but Justin Gaethje did just knock him out semi-recently, within the last year and a half, with a head kick, you know? And Ilia Topuria, this might be a bit of a hot take, but I would kind of have Poirier in that matchup, because I think Poirier's boxing is too crisp for not Holloway, Topuria. Now, that's a bit odd for me to say considering that Topuria just knocked out Holloway, but I think styles make matchups. Obviously, that's like beginner shit right there, you know. But there's just something about the way Poirier fights. Like he's willing to scrap, you know, and Holloway didn't have like a willingness to scrap in his fight with Topuria, you know, and I just think that you need to be able to bring that fire, you know, like you have to be willing to go in the pocket and scrap with Topuria if you want to knock him out, you know, like he's got a chin on him, but I think he's at his weakest points when he's in the pocket with people, like when he was with Jai Herbert and he got kicked in the head. That was that was like a sneaky kick, you know, it was a little sneaky kick delivered to the chin. So I think if you want to take out Topuria, you have to scrap, and that's why I think Poirier would have done well. So if Poirier would have welcomed Topuria to the lightweight division and knocked him out and then retired on that would have been an all-time moment for Poirier. He probably it just would have been crazy. I also have something to say about this BMF bullshit. It's getting played out. It's the main event of UFC 318. We shouldn't be making BMF title events as like the main event. It should be co-main at best. Like I'm not gonna complain nearly as much just because of like who has the BMF belt. Like it's Poirier versus Holloway. That could have been a main event, you know. Like even if it's not a championship fight, that could have been a co-main event. It could have been a main event too, you know. Like I just feel like the BMF is an excuse to not put an actual important title fight on a main card or a main event or something like that, and you can just throw here, take this fucking Mickey Mouse belt, you know? It's lame. It's played out. So I'm gonna talk about some better matchups for Max Holloway, and for Dustin Poirier, which there aren't many for Poirier. Poirier's in kind of like a weird spot right now. But why didn't this fight get made? This would have been the perfect fight for Max Holloway to return to lightweight. Their first bout, I think Oliveira had some like esophagus injury or something like that, and he kind of it was just like a fishy ending to a fight, you know? This fight should have been made for Holloway. This would have been an absolute banger fight. Like no doubt this would have been amazing, you know? Or you can put Holloway against Dan Hooker, you know? Like that's another scrappy battle, and it's also the fact that Max Holloway wouldn't be fighting Dustin Poirier. Nobody wants to see either of those guys lose. Somebody has to lose in that, you know? I was watching the Lucas Tracy video on this earlier today, and he said that, if Max Holloway and Dan Hooker were to fight, people like Dan Hooker, but we would all be rallying for Max to win, which is true. That's a fact. This would have been a much better fight. We would have had an actual, real desired outcome. Nobody wants to see Max Holloway lose to Poirier a third time, and then Poirier retires, and now Max has lost to a guy who's retired. Or Dustin Poirier loses to Max Holloway, and then he loses his retirement fight. Nobody wants to see either of these things happen. I think that the Poirier versus Gaethje matchup would have been much better, because that would have been scrappy, that would have been fun, and regardless of who won or lost, it would have been a great fight to go out on. And I think the Ilia Topuria matchup for Dustin Poirier would have also been better. But it's just tricky because there's nobody else for Poirier at lightweight, we can't give him Paddy Pimblett because it's just too disrespectful to give Poirier on his retirement fight, number 8 ranked Paddy Pimblett. And you can't give him Mateusz Gamrot because he's just going to get wrestled the whole time. It's just going to be a wrestling match. It's not going to be a striking match. You got to have a fun matchup, and I think that either of these two would have been good matchups for Poirier to retire on. But then again, it's the same problem with Max Holloway, where it's okay, let's say Ilia Topuria loses to Dustin Poirier. Well, now Topuria has lost to a guy who's now retired, and who was old. But I guess Poirier still has it, but still, it's just these are all presentable issues, And Gaethje's old too, if Gaethje loses to Poirier, then he's out of title picture. They'll probably both retire if Gaethje loses, because Gaethje said one last title shot, then he's done. It's just tricky to match up Poirier with contenders at lightweight currently. Other news. Rafael Fiziev is going to be fighting Ignacio Bahamondes in UFC Baku, or however the hell you pronounce it. And Mateusz Gamrot is going to be facing Ludovic Klein. I have no complaints about either of these matchups. I mean, I wish that Fiziev would go down to flyweight, but him versus Ignacio Bahamondes, that's going to be a good fight. That's going to be fun. So I'm going to be matchmaking not everyone, a lot of these people. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's everyone. I think I matchmaked everyone. I'm going to be matchmaking everybody in lightweight, just for fun, these are just alternatives and desirable outcomes for lightweight matchmaking. So yeah, let's get going. Now, obviously, we have the big one. Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev, 317. It should be the main event. This should be the fight to make. I don't need to say, no, I'm going to say more. Islam is doing this whole thing make 155, you can fight, and then Ilia makes 155, and he's well, brother, you need to prove self, brother. You need to fight a contender, then you can fight for belt. What are we doing? So you can fight Gaethje? That's bullshit. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to see it. I am Justin Gaethje's number one biggest fan. I don't even want to see that fucking fight. Islam wants to see that fight because he knows what would happen. Everyone knows what would happen. That's why he wants to see that fight. So if you're not going to make this fight, make this fight. I understand that Arman Tsarukyan just pulled out a day before UFC 311. Still, if you're not going to have Islam fight Ilia, have him fight Arman, because there is nobody else who deserves to fight for the fucking title right now, which I will be getting to later. There's a lot of people calling for title shots right now. Charles Oliveira is calling for a title shot. The Justin Gaethje one is a bit fishier because Ali Abdelaziz, or whatever the fuck his name is managing both him and Islam, so he's going to get double championship money if Gaethje and Islam fight each other. But let's be fucking for real here. Nobody wants to see that shit. So these are the two fights to make for Islam. Nobody wants to see any other fucking thing for Islam right now than these two fights. These are the two biggest fights for Islam. Nobody else deserves that shit. But there are two other contenders who have been calling for it, in Charles and in Justin. I will get to that later. For Arman, if he's not going to fight for the title immediately, give him Dan Hooker. They were talking shit to each other on Twitter. Dan Hooker made fun of Arman for pulling out a day before the injury, or a day before the main event. And then when Dan Hooker pulled out of the Justin Gaethje fight, Arman started making fun of him. They got bad blood. Hooker's on a 4 or 5 fight win streak right now. Fuck it. He deserves to fight up. And Arman, if he's going to get punished, he should fight Hooker. He shouldn't be fighting way down in the rankings, because nobody deserves it down there. Or you can make Justin Gaethje versus Arman Tsarukyan. If Gaethje really wants to prove himself, for the title shot, he can fight the number one contender. Like, there's nothing unreasonable about that, you know? Like, these are two very reasonable fights for both Arman and for Gaethje, you know? And for Dan Hooker. Like, these fights make sense. Like, if these guys want the belt, they need to prove themselves for it. As much as I like Gaethje, he does need to... Just because he's a vet doesn't mean he gets special privilege when it comes to the title. He's already gotten title shots before, and he lost before. So, it's just like, you know... Or we can make Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett, which I believe Paddy called out him and Dustin in after Paddy just mauled Michael Chandler at UFC 314. But I would like to see this fight too. You know, Justin Gaethje, he just beat Rafael Fiziev again. You know, like I feel like people knew that was going to happen. So, you know, he can fight down a little bit. I don't think Gaethje really cares about fighting like the number next to the name of the guy that he's fighting. I think he just cares about fighting whoever's in front of him. So this would be a good fight to prove that Paddy's like a real dog, you know, like he can hang with the top lightweight guys, you know. I understand he just demolished Michael Chandler, but we're talking about Michael Chandler here, you know. He's like clinically retarded, you know. Or we could do Charles Oliveira versus Paddy Pimblett. I believe Charles was one of the other guys that he called out at the post-fight speech at UFC 314. I'd like to see this fight. You know, like these are great fights. You know, like these are reasonable matchmaking fights. I just don't understand why the UFC wouldn't do something like this. You know, something along the lines of this. Obviously, this fight should not be made immediately, but I think that down the road, if okay, let me pitch this to you, right? Let's say Ilya versus Islam gets made, right? And then Ilya knocks out Islam, and now he has the lightweight belt. Now let's say Paddy versus Charles gets made, and Paddy submits Charles, right? Well, now we have Ilya Topuria as the champion, and like the number one, number two contender, who's on a hot win streak right now, Paddy Pimblett, challenging for the belt. These two guys have the most fucking generational beef. Like, the beef that Ilya Topuria and Paddy Pimblett had was genuine insanity. You know, like they were trying to fight each other. They were at each other's throats every time they were at a press fight together, or press conference together. Like, I don't know. That's just me dreaming a little bit. For Michael Chandler, the guy that Paddy Pimblett just fucking demolished at UFC 314, he needs to fight way down. He needs to fight the winner of BSD versus Joel Alvarez. They deserve a shot higher in the rankings. I mean, it's just gonna be Joel Alvarez. He's gonna fucking annihilate Benoit Saint-Denis. But like that's what Chandler should be doing. You know, he should be fighting down. Like he's not. We don't get these fucking Chandler, as much as they're entertaining and as much as he's an entertaining fighter to watch. It is unfair that he just gets to keep fighting high up in the rankings just for the fact that he's entertaining. Like, it is still a sport that has rules at the end of the day, and he needs to fight down. For Benoit Saint-Denis, for Beneil Dariush, easy money, versus Renato Moicano. They should just rebook that fight. You know, it fell through at 311 because Moicano had to step up on short notice and fight Islam Makhachev. Just rebook it. You know, we don't need to be giving Moicano any tough guys. He said, don't make bullshit fights, give him easy money. He only wants easy guys. And then he got the fucking boss fight, you know? Just rebook this fight. This is an easy fight to make. Or, if you don't want to do that, do Moicano versus Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson just won recently. He deserves to fight up. I think this could be a good fight for Moicano, too. Like, if he wants easy guys, he can fight down in the rankings, you know? That's a good fight to make. But if Grant Dawson can't fight Moicano, or whoops. If Moicano doesn't want to fight Grant Dawson, fucking give him Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett, easy money. That was the gimmick. Yeah. Paddy Pimblett, 2024, easy money. Paddy Pimblett, not so easy. So that fight probably won't happen. He only wants easy guys, and also Paddy's ranked above him now, and he just recently lost. So there's no actual reason to make this fight. I just threw it in there for shits and gigs, you know. If Grant Dawson doesn't fight Moicano, give him Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper's on a fucking win streak right now. I mean, Grant Dustin doesn't necessarily deserve to fight down, but it's just a good fight to make between two grapplers. I talked about this in my last video. I think this is a really great fight to make. Or we can fucking rebook Dan Hooker. I just want to see this fight. I just need to see this fight. Okay. I have nothing else to say about it. This fight is going to be a fucking bloodbath. I just need to see it happen. I need to see this fight. With like, it needs to be booked. Like I don't want anything else to happen with these two guys right now, other than the fight between them to happen. Because if Gaethje gets booked again and loses, he retires, and then Dan Hooker can't fight fucking Justin Gaethje. Like this is the number. Like I can't describe it. It's just an amazing fight. And when this fight got canceled, when I read the news, I was fucking heartbroken. I was so sad, you know? Now, to solve this issue at lightweight, where both Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje are unjustly calling for title shots after winning one fight, Justin Gaethje beating Rafael Fiziev again, who's like ranked 10 or 11, and Gaethje was ranked 3? Like, what? And you're calling for a title shot after you just got knocked out by Max Holloway? Listen, I love Justin Gaethje. He's my favorite fighter, but that's fucking retarded. And Charles Oliveira calling for a title shot, refusing to fight Ilia Topuria, by the way, after beating Michael Chandler, saying that he deserves... beating Michael Chandler again! He's already beat him before. And he's calling for a title shot. An old, washed Michael Chandler, you know? And he's calling for a title shot. Fucking make these two guys fight each other. Make them fight each other. The first fight was fireworks. It was only like 2.5 minutes long. And it was amazing. So make them do it again. If they want a title shot, make them fight for it. Fuck it. So we got Max Holloway, who's fighting Dustin Poirier. So those two guys are out of the running, you know? We still have Islam, Ilia, Charles, Justin, Dan Hooker. I'm not sure if he's still recovering from his injury or not. Hopefully not, because I want him to fight Justin Gaethje. I want that fight more than this one, you know? So we got the 4 guys, you know? Ilia, Islam, Justin, Charles. Justin and Charles, Ilia and Islam. Like, that's the most realistic approach we can take, because Justin and Charles want the title. They want their title shot. Make them fight for it. Ilia and Islam is the fight to make. Now, if it's Ilia and Arman, we'll do fucking Ilia and Justin and Charles and some other fucking guy. Charles and who knows what, you know? But still, make these two, like, if these two want their title shot, they're calling for their fucking title shot, they think that they deserve it, just make them fight each other for it. I don't know how that didn't get announced immediately when these two guys were talking about title shot, you know? That's all I gotta say about this. This video is a fucking, like, mess. Like, it's convoluted, it's crazy, it doesn't make any fucking sense, and I think that's a perfect statement to the way lightweight is right now. That's all I got. See ya.